more freedom you gain by leaving your home country and going to live in a new one, the more isolation you slowly take on. And you don't realize it until it's too late. One of the biggest lies about moving abroad is that it gives you more freedom. It does, but it also takes something from you at the same time. But it doesn't happen at the flip of a switch. It happens very slowly, incrementally. And the trade-off is isolation. You think, right? When you're going to come abroad, you have this opportunity to reinvent yourself, to start over. And this is largely true. When I first came here, one of the first things I did is I signed up for Chinese lessons, obviously. One of the second things I did is I went to a Kung Fu class because I thought all my life I've wanted to attempt Kung Fu, right? I found other communities that I thought would be interesting. I used to be an avid poker player. So we would play once a week or once every few weeks. I started making friends with people I worked with, people who also enjoyed teaching, but more than anything else, just wanted to be abroad before it was too late in their lives. And that's the first time I noticed it. I saw it at first, and then I experienced it later. You're one. I won't tell you her name, but there was a girl I was friends with. She had a boyfriend at the time. And she and I would always just have good conversations on the bus ride to work. And that's it. We were just friends. But I looked at her and her boyfriend and I thought, oh wow, yeah, they're going to end up married. You could just tell. You could just tell. And then when May rolls around and everyone's position for the next year is being determined, the rumor gets around that her boyfriend is staying and she's just going back. And that's the end of the relationship. This is not at all uncommon. So seeing that third hand was a little interesting, but it became all too common. All too common. And the absence was felt the next year. You know, I had a friend with whom we were having decent conversations. I haven't spoken to her in 12 years. So what do we make of this? Freedom to make new friends, but then the reality that they are highly transient. It's not uncommon for schools to experience up to 50% attrition rate, meaning that 50% of its teachers will turn over year to year. That's a rather high number. Most schools are a little less than that, but still the reality is there. People don't stay here long term. And if you do, you're setting yourself up for isolation. I really felt it when my two friends with whom I had come over here left. We'd all agreed to just come for a year. And then the school offered us a 3-year bonus package. If we stayed for 2 more years after the first one, they would pay us a couple extra months' salary. And so we thought, yeah, it's a good commitment, easy commitment to make. They were friends of mine. They have been friends of mine for, I don't know, more than 10 years. And at this point in life, I've known them for 20 years, and they're wonderful people. Even then, they left China at the end of that 3-year period, and my best friends are in another country now. What are we to make of this, right? You think you can come over here because there's freedom in people not knowing your past. And this is true. You can reinvent yourself. You can do the things that you've wanted to do for a long time and just have not been able to get around to it. All of this is true, but it's not true in a vacuum. You pay for it. You pay for it with fewer human connections. I have seen people stick around as long as I have. The kinds of people who do stick around as long as I have are people usually who are married or people who have become alcoholics, to be 100% frank. Because the cost is high. So, year after year, you notice this that relationships become thinner, friendships reset. And after this happens, 4 to 5 years, you find it more difficult to invest your time in other people in general, knowing that they're probably going to be gone soon. And you always have in the back of your mind, maybe me too, is this my last year? When will I be gone? And that single question, that reticence, causes you to withhold, to protect yourself. And this is where another shift happens. It's that initially you have this freedom, and you still do, but you don't have anyone with whom to enjoy it. And then you have the isolation. And the isolation, if you're not careful, can drive you to not exercise any more of your freedom, to withdraw. I have seen this. I've experienced this. You find that there is no default people you can fall back on. Any normal community that you thought you established in your first 1 or 2 or 3 years here will cycle through people so quickly, small traditions will be replaced exponentially fast. Going to the same places to hang out will become meaningless. Those places will close up and be replaced by others, just as those people will disappear. Through nobody's fault. It's just how it is. And then you realize that you've been building a life centered around yourself and your family back in another country have grown more distant, not intentionally, but because isolation is not an isolated experience or phenomenon. It's simply the way it is. You're not around people, so you don't build relationships with them. You pay for your freedom. You pay for it with isolation. So freedom and isolation, they're kind of proportionally related. They have an inverse relationship. They're not separate. You cannot separate the two. And it works like this. The fewer social constraints you have, the more freedom you have. The less you have to be at a certain place at a certain time, the more liberty you have to say, I'm going to travel to this beautiful scenic area. Use very cost-effective public transportation to travel 400 or 500 or 1,000 miles to go see something I've never seen before. But then you go there and you take the pictures and You take some videos. You stay there for a couple nights. You enjoy it. And you're alone. This is just how it is. With decreasing amounts of social density, meaning your friend groups are fewer in general, your isolation increases. You can't get around this. It's the little things that tie you down in your home country that actually feed you more than you know. Going to the store with your friends, stopping at a gas station and running into someone you haven't seen in a long time. You know, these little things, an argument with a family member at Thanksgiving, the thing that you hate, but then at the same time, that makes you also see that person differently. All of this, all of these are social buffers for you. They're all part of your social robustness. And when you trade that off, you get your freedom. You absolutely get it. You can go where you want. You can live more cheaply. You can get really interesting and good food. You can meet new people, but they shuffle. They have lower expectations, which means friendship is, not what it was for you growing up. You don't have shared memories, which some people want to get away from that because they want to get away from their past. Sometimes that's healing. Sometimes it's escape. All of this freedom is paid for in isolation. So what does this mean? The real question isn't whether living abroad gives you freedom. It absolutely does. It's whether you're willing to pay for it with the isolation that results. Buyer beware. So if you're thinking of coming abroad, I would never say don't. I have a life here. Others do. However, you're not just starting from ground zero. You have to intentionally build something. And you have to build it well. You have to know what you're getting into and know what you're risking. And you have to be willing to actually lose those things that I mentioned. Family relationships. Are you willing to lose years of camaraderie with brothers, sisters, friends, family? People don't know anything about you as a trade for fewer friends in general, or perhaps none at all. The choice is yours.